So, you know, as far as what we did up to last class, we've got everything to record page. So when we're finished, what we really have here is a standing house, don't we? If we looked at this like a construction job, we built the foundation, we built the walls, we put up the roof, we put up the drywall, you know, it's all there. The kitchen's installed, everything is there. So now all we got to do is hang the curtains, paint the walls, you know, put the furniture in place. So it's all just bells and whistles from here on out. If you get everything all the way to record page and it all works and it looks the way you want it to look and your users see what they need to see, it is very restrictive, very simple. This is something you can build on. This is really step one. It seems like we've been working the whole time and there's been a million steps, but this is the first step, is getting everything to record page and everything it entails to get there. You could imagine trying to do this starting with the record page. Everybody know what I mean by record page?
No, I don't know.
Okay, so if I go into our sales application and I look at an account record, we'll go to Burlington here. What we are looking at right now is what's known as a record page.
Oh.
See? So in order to get to this point, we had to do everything else first, and then the record page just became a layer. Remember, we got everything to record type. So we built our objects, added all of our fields, did all of our relationships, got everything connected, got our page layouts in order with all the related lists and fields and actions and all of that. We kind of stacked everything up. Then after we got everything to record type, we went and we said, hey, we got to do the compact layout. What was the compact layout for?
It's for those fields above the phone and shipping address industry.
Yeah, the highlights panel on the record page, those are the fields that are determined here. Where are these determined? Over here, these actions.
I don't remember now.
Anybody? So if I go in and edit this record page, edit page, can I manage the actions on the record page? Where do we manage our actions? Yeah, it's on the page layout. In our links and actions on the page layout. So this is what I'm getting at. If you don't have security set up and you haven't built the application in the way that you want it to look, and you haven't done every page layout, and you don't have them all to record type, if you just try to start developing from the record page side, it will never happen. The record page is truly the last layer, and this is what's known as the Lightning App Builder. This is how we build our record pages. And if you remember last week, I just kind of played with these a little bit. I got rid of news. We weren't using it. I got rid of related. And then I came in and I added some components to the canvas here in the app builder. These are all words that you might see on the app builder exam, by the way. Canvas, components, actions, highlights panel, related lists. Maybe do it as a quick link. Or maybe I don't like that and we want to do it kind of more traditionally. Over here, we aren't using chatter at the moment, so I might pull the chatter tab here and make this very, very simple. What controls these? Well, that's the Lightning Experience actions on the page layout. If you don't know that, you'll do the 20-hour troubleshoot trying to figure it out. I know because I did it. Questions there? If you save this thing, it'll ask you to activate. Activating is essentially assigning it. And there's a couple of ways to assign a record page. You can make it the org default, which everybody in the org will see that record page for that object. So if you only have one type of account, then that record page might work, the org default. Or we can do it by the app. So we can assign it just for the sales application, for instance. So this one's kind of very across the board. Everybody has the same one. This one is app dependent. And then this is the most granular. This is why I like to get every object to record type these days, because I can assign it via record type. So I can assign it to the sales application for phone and desktop. And I can assign it for my record types as needed. Now I might need a separate one for each. In this case, we'll just keep our account object here. The same one for all of them. Now they're assigned. Now I get to choose which profiles I want. Well, custom sales and admin. So I'm assigning that record page now. It's called activation. I really think of it as assignment is really what's going on. So now your user, when they log in, this is the record page they will see based on the app that they chose, the record type, and the profile that was selected for them. See how simple that is? It's only simple if you know everything else. Let's take a look at another one. The opportunities record page, for instance. So if I go into an opportunity record, there's our solar array op. What do we call this? Up here.
Process.
That's our business process, isn't it? What do we call it specifically?
Stage pick list.
It's our stage pick list. That's where it lives. What we call it is the sales process, right?
Yes.
This one specifically is our renewable energy sales process. So once again, if you don't have everything to record type, if you don't have your business processes set up before you go to layer on these record pages, imagine trying to do it from here. You're doing it backwards if you do it that way. And it's much, much more difficult. It's better to build everything first and then just layer on that record page. And it's very, very simple. Just drag your components into place, make sure it looks the way you want, remove anything that's unnecessary for that particular process. Make sure your related lists are on there as needed. We're also going to need our activities associated. And then I might take this one and put it here. Easy enough. You have to activate it. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. I forgot about the path up here. This component is what is known as a path. It's this component here. Now, the one on the op is already kind of set up for us. So as long as you have your record types and business processes set up properly, it will have the right process in it just kind of magically, because we're going to activate it based on app, record type, and profile again. So it'll be the sales app, but this time the record type is going to be renewable energy. And then the profiles, once again, are custom sales and sysadmin. There we go. But what about the assessment object? Does it have a business process on it? Does the assessment record have a business process?
Mm,
No.
Sure.
if it's a standard one, yeah.
It's the status pick list, right? So this is a custom object. So if I go to edit page here, number one, notice that there is no path automatically added. So if I want one, I need to add it. Well, I'm going to add my related lists another way. So I'll leave the details section here. But what we want is this path. So if I grab the path component and drop it like right here, do you see how there's nothing in it?
Mm-hmm.
This will drive you insane if you don't see it done. So we have to set up this path. Do you see this little link over here? Highlight the path itself, go to the setup path link, and we're truly going to set this path up. Where are these values coming from? Which field do we want to show? The assessment. We want that which object?
Assessment.
Assessment. And then which record type? See why I get everything to record type?
Mm-hmm.
It's just everywhere now. Once you get to record page, record type is everywhere. So if you don't have everything to record type, everything's the master. And it gets very, very confusing.
Mm-hmm.
So we're just choosing the pick list that we want to be the process here. And here we go. We've got open, scheduled, and completed. Now, we could add fields to this highlights panel that show pertinent fields here. You can just kind of add them by hitting this plus sign. It's for when you have a more complicated org with lots and lots of fields in the details section, or maybe you're hiding the details section altogether in the component. So you can just grab the fields kind of like a highlights panel and add them. I don't want to do that because we have a very simple one here with very few fields. Less is always going to be more. Guidance for success, we could literally write out what you do at that stage in the process. Right? In order to get it scheduled, we have to schedule it and assign it. And then for scheduled, what do you do? Well, something like that, and then completed. Ask for referrals. Or actually, at that point, we would be create the proposal would be next, right? Hopefully you kind of see the thought process here as we're walking our users through the process. So then if we want, we could also activate our path and then make it give us confetti when it's completed. Yay. Right? It's all very easy. Make sure your path is active. And now what usually confuses people is they end up back on the record page. So it's active. So we go back to the record page for the assessment object. All right. What happened to my path? You see what I'm saying? You go back and you're like, wait, it's not there. Well, we need to add it to the record page. So what do we do? We go back to the record page, go to the assessment object, and then we need to add it. So I'm going to edit my page. Because I never saved it in place. I don't think. We'll see here. Yeah. So right now I don't need related. But now I've got that path. Grab it. Drop it. Now it's filled out. You see? Now we can activate it. Oh, you know what? I need to add my related list here for the op. Or no, this is the assessment. I don't think I need any. Let's do quick links. You can see. Yeah, there's nothing to display. So the assessment's good the way it is. Go ahead and activate. If I didn't already. Do it by the sales application. Desktop and phone. Master and assessment. Those are the record types. Here's our profiles. We would need to do the same thing for quality assurance, wouldn't we? So I'll go to my QA object. Notice that I'm not doing it from the object manager. You could, but I'm literally doing it from the records themselves. Here's a QA record. $0.07. Here's our QA. I'll go to the record page itself and edit the page. Now I'm going to need a path. Which field am I going to use for my path?
Status, right?
Status. Oh, it's, you can't see it. What do I have to do?
Highlight the
So I highlighted the component.
and then set up path.
We got to
Click
set
on
up
set
our
up
path. Now remember, we didn't add it, right? We didn't add the component. We just realized that it was empty. So I'm going to go and set up our path here. Same exact thing as before. New path. We'll call it quality assurance path. Which object? Quality assurance. Record type? Quality assurance. Status pick list.
So Ryan, whichever object has a status, we have to go through this process, right?
That's correct. If there is a business process on a custom object, you will need to identify the path as I've been doing here.
Once you're done, I just want to make sure that I got this right.
Sure.
Do you mind walking me through this?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I'm going to go ahead and finish this up first for posterity here. Like I said, if you don't see this done, it's like the 20-hour troubleshoot. It's like, why isn't it working? You know. I'm going to edit the page. And we'll add our path component. Hey, Bill, welcome back.
Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate it. I missed a couple times, but not from lack of trying. I've also picked up some Salesforce work during the day, so I'm not always able to be here at during your class. But I try and catch the videos and the
Our theory
recording.
hold true. We were theorizing about what happened to people. I was saying people probably got work.
Well, that's a good thing, but I will
Oh,
say
absolutely.
that I have Tuesdays and Thursdays engraved in my brain, so I'm like, I need to be there.
Well, I appreciate you coming back.
Definitely.
Hopefully this is helping in your day to day. That's the important part.
More than you will ever know.
Security is everything, isn't it?
And so is Salesforce security as well.
That's what I mean. It's everything. And once again, you know, it's not that hard once you see it done. But if you don't see it done, that's the game you'll play. And I did it. My first couple implementations, it drove me nuts because I started from the record page, trying to develop Lightning out of the box from the record page is a huge issue. It's folly.
Well, also, then you run into the issue of you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah. Happens to me all the time. What you got to learn to do is how to navigate that in such a way to where you don't look stupid. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. Where I usually have most of my issues these days is the data work. That's where I usually run into trouble. We get everything built, everything looks great. They love how it looks, and then they start handing me Excel sheets from, you know, whatever it is they've been doing up to then, and they're all set up differently, and there's no rhyme or reason. Sometimes it's a pickless value, some, you know. So it's manipulating the data and getting it into the platform that you built ends up being the hard part after you've kind of broken through the architectural, structural, and security side of things. You can kind of fix anything in platform. What ends up getting me is the data side, trying to take the data that they've already collected in another application, and enter it in Salesforce in a meaningful way. I'd say most of us, more senior resources, probably feel that way. You know, it's kind of like the fundamental theorem of calculus. The first time you see it, when they pull that variable out of the sky and solve for the two other variables, it's like, whoa, can you show that to me again? But after a while, you do it a couple hundred times and you're like, oh, well, you know, this is like breathing. But then I get nailed on the arithmetic at the end. It's never the calculus, it's the arithmetic that gets me, right? It's the little simple stuff that you miss. So it's a constant struggle. If you don't look at this like it's a puzzle, you're probably not going to enjoy your work too much. It's all a puzzle that needs to be unlocked. Okay. Any questions on those?
Yeah, Ryan, can we go through that with me?
Sure, here you go.
If you don't mind.
Oh yeah, I said I would and then wouldn't stop running my mouth. There you go. Go ahead and share. Give me 1 sec. I'm going to go grab a drink. All right. Did you get it shared? I think I'm looking at the wrong screen.
I think you need to disable. It says host disable participant screen
did I do
sharing.
it?
Yeah.
Share screen, huh? I must have that set to a default. Okay, there you go.
Okay.
I think that's also Zoom's way of preventing a screen from getting hijacked without the
Oh yeah, the Zoom bomb.
you know, the host knowing about it.
Right. Zoom bombers.
Yeah. So Ryan, do you mind walking me through? I think I missed a few steps here. So I'm in the Burlington opportunity and under the quality assurance. What exactly did you do? I missed a lot of steps there.
Well, so on this one, you don't have to worry about it because you've set everything up properly before this. So if you go up and look at the path,
Yes.
it knows that the path is the stage pick list already
Okay.
because it's a standard object. And it knows which values are going to be available because you've assigned the proper sales process to each record type. Make sense?
Yes.
So
Okay.
for that record type, I can tell it's renewable energy because of your values there. See?
Yes.
If you were to change your record type to the other one, fossil fuels, for instance, you would see maybe a different view there as far as the values. Like that. So go to that Burlington Textiles weaving plant generator. All right, and then change record type. See up at the top, change record type. It's an action.
Oh.
Change it to fossil fuels. There you go. Next. And then save. So now you should only see the values. You're in close one right now, but that should be the process for fossil fuels in that path field.
Okay.
It's already set up properly. So you don't have to worry about that one. However, on your assessment side, so go to an assessment record. Now, if you hadn't set it, if you hadn't gotten opportunities to record types, then you'd have a serious problem here, wouldn't you?
Mm-hmm.
Because you'd have all of the values in the stage pick list, and you'll notice that the master record type that you were on beforehand did have all the values in it. So go to the Burlington account. Account.
Oh, account.
Yep. Okay, and then from the account, Burlington Textiles. And then from the account, go and go down to, okay, so in this case, let's see. This account has, okay, go to the solar array op. Burlington solar array opportunities there from the account record. It's, see the related list down there, opportunities? It's the first one down in the details section.
Okay,
There you
sorry.
go. Go to your solar array assessment. Now for this one, see the assessment record there and related on the right-hand side?
Yes.
Yeah, go there. This one doesn't have a path, does it?
No.
But it does have a business process. Which field is it?
Status.
It's our status pick list. So we need to add a path component to the record page. So go up in the top right-hand corner where the little cog is.
Mm-hmm.
And go to edit page, not setup, but edit page. There you go.
Okay.
That takes you to the app builder. Now you can get rid of that related section. So just click on click on all of that. And then on the right-hand side, you see the little tabs all the way on the right. You can get rid of related. And then below the details section, maybe grab that related lists component and drop it right under the details component. So where the setup tree normally is, do you see the related lists component on the left-hand side? Down where the setup tree normally lives, you see related lists?
Right here.
Plural?
Yes.
Do the plural one. Related
Okay.
lists. Grab it and drag it right under the details section on the record page. So there aren't any to display. You don't need them. So just remove it. Just hit the little trash can there. There you go. So now we need a path, right? So grab your path component. on the app builder there and drop it on the canvas above the details section and below the highlights panel up there.
Another tip is if you know exactly what it's called, you could just hit the search components and type, what
Yep.
you're looking for.
Yes, that is true. Just like on the setup tree, if you know what you're looking for, you can search it there. Now notice how your path is not all the way across the top of the screen. I would put it under the assessment highlights panel at the top. So that path runs all the way across the top of the page instead of just at the top of that component. No, down just below that one, right there. See?
Okay.
There we go. But what's the problem with it?
There's no values.
It hasn't been configured. So configure that path. Go to setup path on the right-hand side. It's the little blue link. And then we're going to call it the assessment path. New path. There you go. And this is all self-explanatory. Assessment path. Object will be assessment. Record type is assessment. Pick list is going to be status. You could add fields and guidance just next on through on this.
I'm sorry, what to type here?
Don't worry about it. Just go to next.
Oh.
You could type what they do in between stages. Turn the bottom one on and then the top one. And then choose completed. And then pop that over and then select always instead of rarely and finish. Now we got to go back to our assessment record page. Let me show you the other way to get there. Go to the object manager. Go to the assessment object. And then go to record pages, lightning record pages, third one from the top. What's the problem?
I don't see anything that's the work that was done.
There isn't one, but I got news for you. There is a record page. It's just not showing up here. It's the one that comes out of the box. So go back to your assessment record in the app. This will save you all kinds of headaches, everybody. Knowing that it already exists, even though it doesn't show up, will keep you from making duplicate record pages on accident, which is another huge problem. You need to go to your assessment. So go to ops, solar array, and then from the related list area, you should see the assessment on the right-hand side over there. See how she's fumbling to find that? That's a poorly configured record page. And I'm always watching my users at this point. I want to watch them and see where they have issues and see if I can fix them before it starts really getting used. She doesn't like those related lists over there where the activities normally are. She wants those related lists to be at the bottom of the details section. You can see it. Go up to an edit page here. So this is the record page for the assessment that looked like it didn't exist in the object manager. However, hey, look, it does. I always use these first. I just go right to the record of interest and edit that page. So you can get rid of related tab in that component. It's not necessary. It's on the right hand. Oh, no, you're going to need the details section. So grab the detail component and drop it in that add components here area. Record detail there. Grab that. It drags and drops right into the add components here. There you go. All right, so then we don't need any related lists, but we do need that path. So find your path component and drag that below the highlights panel. The highlights panel is the one at the top. It says Burlington Solar Assessment. That's where the path is going to go, below that one, right there. There you go. Nice. So you're all set. Go ahead and save and activate. So save and then activate, and you want to do it for record type, app, and profile, and assign them properly.
Hey, Ryan, I was working on this exact thing actually just a few days ago. And what I learned is that sometimes, as was explained to me, sometimes you have to, once you activate it, you have to turn it off only to turn it back on again, just so that it all syncs.
No, that's not true. That's not correct. What you need to do is refresh your browser.
Okay, all right, because I was told of all of that, and still I was told to do this, to deactivate it and then reactivate it, but so.
Who told you that?
Actually, well, I don't want to identify the person, but
You don't have to throw them under the bus. Who were they to you? Right.
I'll leave that one alone.
Okay. I'm not saying they're wrong, but I know the problem that you're talking about, and I'll tell you about it here in a minute, exactly what's going on there. Go ahead. Anthony.
Okay.
Ryan, keep it sales app.
Yep, sales application,
Okay.
and then desktop and phone, and then master and assessment. Choose both, just in case there's already a record that exists.
Okay.
And then you're going to choose
Profile.
your profiles, so custom sales and admin.
There's the
It's
admin.
this admin, system admin. And there you go. So there's a number of things that can happen here that gets kind of weird. One of them would be go ahead and back out of this. So one of them might be you go to the record and you don't see any changes that happened. What I find this happens the most these days is when people operate from separate tabs. So they'll have multiple tabs open. One might be on the record, one might be on the record page, one might be somewhere else on a report or something. And they like to work in between tabs like that. It's very dangerous to play that game. And I find a lot of the younger folks that I work with are doing this quite a bit. And it makes sense in a lot of other applications, but you're better off to just operate from one tab. Because what will happen is you'll be looking at a previous version of that record, as we've seen before, and you'll make all the changes and you'll go look at the record and you'll be like, what the hell, it didn't take. You have to refresh your browser at that point and it will show up. The other thing that will happen, could you go to an opportunity, and this is probably what you're seeing, Bill, I'm not 100% sure, but if go to that Burlington Textiles plant generator, this record type, just go and choose the first stage and make that open so we can see. So just click that and then mark as current stage on the right. Okay, so there's our fossil fuel process. So we're looking at this record. Now, go to the object manager. So set up object manager. So what happened here is we're looking at a record of a different record type than the one we want to manage. So what happens is the app builder refers to the last record that you looked at. So that was our opportunity record. So go to the opportunity object. And then look at your record pages. Lightning record pages. Still not there. Okay. So go to, this is the only problem with this. I'm trying to show you something. Go to the solar array op. See, then that won't do it. See, what will happen here is, listen, Bill, this is what goes on. So if you accidentally create more than one record page, right? Let's say that you have two record pages here, one that you can see and one that you can't. See how that, if you look at record pages in the object manager, we changed the master record page essentially, so it doesn't show up. What it will do is if you do have a record page that shows up, if you're looking at a record of a different record type, it will screw up the look of that record page because you're looking at the wrong type of record. It refers to the last record that you looked at. So what happens is it causes a lot of gnashing of teeth. Well, the problem is you looked at a record that had a different record page for it. So when you go into the record page that you created, it doesn't look the same. Stuff's missing. Page layouts aren't there. Field sets are different. Pick list values are different. Is that what was happening to you or no?
So let me see if I can understand what you're saying. So you're saying that after you had made all the changes, hit save, and then activated it, waited a second or two, and then hit refresh, even if you're using different tabs, then it should all catch up with itself. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, it will. But the problem that you were having, I think, is that you had more than one record page in play with different business processes for each page, right?
Right.
So we had one for fossil fuels, let's say, and one for renewable energy.
Right.
If you were to go to an op record that was fossil fuels, right before you went to the record page in the object manager for renewable energy, when you bring up the record page for renewable energy, the record that you looked at last will be the one that shows. So you're looking at the wrong record type on the wrong record page. So it looks all jacked up.
Okay. This is still relatively new to me, so I'm not disagreeing with you, but I guess for best to actually see it in play. But
Let me show you. Let me see if I can do this quickly without reducing this to to a bad situation. Okay, so let's say I go to the object manager. And screen one. There we go. So let's say I go to the object manager. There we go. And I'm going to go to the object manager for opportunities. What'll be funny is if they fix this in the last release. They do that to me sometimes. I go through this big, long, drawn-out demo, and then they fix it on the last release or something. So if I go to the opportunity object here, I go to Lightning record pages. Well, there's one. So let's say we're going to call this one what? This is renewable energy. So I'll call this one renewable energy record page. There we go.
so we had created all of the tabs and all the actions and pretty much put everything on the page exactly as we wanted. And then we hit save and hit activation or hit activate. And then it was the next tab that appeared after that. That's when we were told to basically, as I say, turn it off and then turn it back on.
Well, it doesn't tell you. Things will just be messed up. Like, what's going on? It didn't work. You just need to refresh your browser. You're looking at a different version.
Yeah, it was a record page that we were.
Yeah. So now instead of going directly to the record, that's how I've been getting to the record pages, you'll know. Now I'm going to create one from scratch from the object manager here. You see this? So they give you some choices. We want a record page. And then they say, which format do you want? We'll call this the fossil fuel. The object is going to be opportunities. And then what's the one I always like? There it is, this one. Header and right sidebar. There's the phone, what it looks like. Finish. So now I have a brand new record page here that's blank. I got to create it from scratch. Well, we definitely want our highlights panel. And then we want our details section. And then, oh, actually, that's all right. That's fine. And then we'll do activities and related lists. Okay, good enough. So what's the problem here? What is this one called?
The fossil fuel record page.
And what record type is this?
The renewable energy record page.
Renewable energy. So if you came in here and expected to see the fossil fuel record type to show up in this record page, do you see how it's not there?
Yes.
Okay, so the problem is that the last record that I looked at was a renewable energy record type. That's the problem. Do you see it's not correct? If you wanted a different record page, which we do, this ain't gonna work, is it? Or it doesn't
No,
work.
you'd have to get the fossil fuel record type, not the renewable energy.
Right, but at the same time, I don't necessarily have to mess with it at this point. I can still save it and activate it because it's just referring to a different record. All right, so that's all saved and good. If I were to go to a fossil fuels record type opportunity, which is going to be anything but the solar array, look at it. This is a master record type. Do you see that? So I'm going to change it to fossil fuels. Master meaning it's blank.
Is it critical? A few screens ago, you clicked on both the master and, in this case, the fossil fuels. What would happen if you inadvertently only clicked on one of them?
Well, everything up until the point where I generated new record types will remain the master.
Okay.
So it's anything that existed before I got that object or record type. In this case, it's every record, basically, except for the solar array record is going to be the master. You would have to go in and change that with a data tool to the new record type. I mean, that's the best way to do it. I'm just kind of hedging by choosing the master as well. But here we go, right? So I'm looking at Farmers Co-op of Florida. So now when I go back into the app builder, object manager, opportunities, record pages. Now, if I look at the fossil fuels record page and edit, now I see the correct version of the record page because I'm in the right record type this time. It all depends on the record that you looked at last.
Okay, so what I'm hearing from you then, it's critical when you create or prior to creating a record page that you be it basically in a new screen with the records that you want to create.
Be on a record of the type that you want to be seeing in the app builder.
Okay, that's what I wanted to say. You said it better.
Yeah. But as you can see, if you don't know this stuff, it will drive you bonkers. It's the hard part, or the learning curve on Lightning versus everything else, as far as the record pages, it's like a Z-axis almost. It's a whole new level of understanding. You have to know that, well, I can't get the fields I want on this record page. Well, how would you add fields to the record page if you wanted them?
Right.
You know, where would you go? If you want to add a field here, where do I have to do that?
Well, let's see.
I can't do it on the record page. Can I add a field to this component?
No,
How do I add fields to records?
in the page layout.
Yeah, see? What controls the values in here on a record page?
Well, that obviously you're pointing at the path
Yeah. Where do those values come from?
from a pick list from a record page.
From well, you're talking about the stage pick list on the
Yes.
top,
Okay. I'm sorry. Yes. This item.
right? Then how do we control which values are available per the record type?
That's going to be from pick list. Go ahead.
Well, it is from the pick list, but let's say I've got 2 business processes in my stage pick list. How do I isolate the values that show up in the path?
Is it under the sales process?
Yes. Yes. Everybody okay? Where do these come from?
These are from the page layout, no?
Yep. Where at on the page layout?
Under the sales Lightning app mobile.
Lightning and mobile actions.
Yes.
What controls these here, these fields?
This is the compact, no?
Very
Compact.
good. Compact
Yay.
layout controls these. It also controls the values in the list view on mobile, right? For the mobile cards, the primary compact layout. What controls these down here?
That's also pick list.
Nope.
No, oh, the mobile, yes.
Mobile
Salesforce
Lightning
Lightning,
actions,
yes,
right?
yes.
What if I don't see a related list up here?
Then you have to go to the page.
Yes. It was
Okay.
not added to the page layout, or you don't have access or permission to see it in your security settings. Sona's doing really good. That's solid. That's a good, solid knowledge of the platform. That's where you got to be if you want to develop in Lightning. Questions? So I thought the second half of this class would be a good time for some review. So let's go to Trailhead. Since we've been covering the same thing for quite some time here, this might be a nice time to go back and talk about some of the stuff we already touched on, because we're going to move forward after this class. From now on, the app is built. We're going to be doing validation, automation, data import, export. We're on to bigger and better things. So I'm going to find our admin study guide here. guys can't see that. There we go. All right, so I'm just going to run through everything we've done to where we are. Feel free to shout out the answers here. So org setup here, very first one. Describe the information found in the company settings. What are we talking about here? Where do I find the company settings for the whole org? Nobody? I know it's been a while. Where do we find our company settings? Think about
Is it under
ClickPath.
company information?
Company information, company settings,
Yes.
company information. Key points of the company information page.
You want to look at the addition there?
What are the Salesforce additions?
Mm-hmm.
Well, what is the addition?
It's the developer edition. It's
Well,
the
we
third.
are in a developer edition. What are the other editions that are available?
Unlimited edition. And then there's professional edition.
There's also
Essential.
essentials.
Essentials,
Yes.
Lightning, experience, enterprise level, right? So we've got essentials. How much did that cost per user per month?
Depending on how you buy it, it's $30 a month on a month-to-month basis, but $25 if you buy it at once annually.
Yes. Now, what I will say about essentials for those of us that are in consulting roles, it used to be called group and it was terrible.
It used to be called what?
It used to be called group edition and it was terrible.
Okay.
It was trash. They recently created this essentials edition and it rocks comparatively. I mean, for 25 bucks a user per month, it has a lot of functionality. You don't get a lot you can do with security. You are stuck in standard profiles, etc. But for a company starting out, there is a ton of functionality available for very little money. And I have done 2 or 3 essentials implementations and they were all very, very successful. So don't be afraid of essentials, but you're not going
Would
to get
essentials
custom
be
profiles.
good for a sales team, or like, obviously, you know, somebody starting out, but what would you say would be the primary market for that?
Well, number one, it's got to be 9 users or less.
Right, but typically like a sales type of thing, or I mean, if you had a bunch of, let's say, other widgets or something else you had to keep track of, I don't know. I'm asking.
I can do custom development in essentials. So I could develop an app from scratch and not use any standard objects in essentials. It is,
Okay.
It's the limitation in regards to the number of users in the entire org. You can't have more than 9. That's the main limitation. Then you don't get custom profiles. You don't get field level security. You don't, it used to be, you don't get workflow, for instance, simple workflow, but it does give you the process builder. So it has a lot of functionality available. It's just 9 users or less. You can look at the comparison chart. It'll tell you more. But know the name of it, that it's the least expensive and it has the least functionality available. Then we have professional, which is the next step up. How much was that one?
Is it $75
$5
per
a month
user?
per user. Yep. That one, you get record types in that one, but it's only 3 per object, which can be kind of limiting for some organizations. You don't get simple workflow, but you do get the process builder. There's some other things. You get up to 3 record types. You can create custom profiles, but they are, you don't get field level security. So it's like the middle of the road. I've done quite a few pro implementations. That's generally where my clients start. Until recently, I've been starting them out in essentials just because I consider that like almost the beta phase. So I build it in essentials. And if they're happy with it and they overcome the functionality of essentials, then I would bump them up to pro at that point, just kind of working in series with their process just to save as much money as possible for the client. But before I would have just started in pro because group was so bad. And then we had the enterprise edition. How much was that a month per user?
150.
150 a month per user. It's the full tool. And then we had unlimited. How much was that one?
300.
Yep. And that one you get extra developer environments. You get their free online training materials, which some years ago that was useful. These days with Trailhead, maybe not so much. I've never done an unlimited implementation personally. What else we got on here? Key points.
The time zone, the location,
The what?
the time zone.
Time zone.
Mm-hmm.
What else?
The current locale.
Locale. What was the key points of locale?
Locale, default locale.
If you remember, I had a specific set or a set of values you could apply to this question that you might see on the exam. When you see locale, default locale, for instance, that means that they're talking about the format of the fields that are being used. For instance, date, time, name, number, address, and geolocation. The locale affects the way that fields are displayed. For instance, date fields. They might be in one locale, you'd have month, day, and year, like here in the States. Somewhere else, they might have day, month, and year as the format. Same thing goes for names, numbering, naming conventions, numbers, how they geolocate.
So if you had locale, for example, even though it says English, like right now it says United States, then that's going to be month, day, year. But that if that said English United Kingdom, then that would be day, month, year. Is that right?
Correct.
And the default time zone, that's where the company is headquartered.
Yes, this is for I like to think of the company information page like the user detail record for the company.
But if you had a worker who was in Los Angeles, let's say, then even though that default time zone would remain at Eastern if they're headquartered Eastern time, then for the user profile, then you could switch it. So then it would be Pacific time.
That's correct. That's the way they're going to see it from their end. So their time zone is selected on their user record.
And then
The
another
time zone is selected here.
And then the other thing that was important, I think, of the company information is the fiscal year.
Okay, key points of fiscal year.
That the default is going to be January through December, but then you could change it to a custom fiscal year. But if you decide you want to change it back, you can, but it'll always be as a custom fiscal year.
So here's your keywords. Standard fiscal year. The keyword is Gregorian. If you see Gregorian in any question, they are talking about standard fiscal year. There's nothing else where they're going to use that keyword. So just know when you see Gregorian in a question, immediately think fiscal year. Standard fiscal year. And that's the one, as you said, default, it comes out of the box that way. You just pick the month you want it to start and what it's based on, either the starting month or the ending month, and you're good to go. You're going to ask your bean counters, your accountants, you know, your fiscal people, whatever they are. What is our fiscal year? Now, if you have an unstandard or an uncommon fiscal year, the keywords for that on the exam are going to be 13 and 445. So if you see 13 weeks, 2 4-week months and a 5-week month, 445, 4 equal quarters, you know, any of that stuff, they're talking about a custom fiscal year. And as you mentioned, Once you go custom, you cannot go back to standard. If you know all that, you'll get the question right, period. What else we got? Company information page. How do I activate multiple currencies?
Well, there's a checkbox.
Check the box and,
And you can put activate multiple currency, add it.
well, we activate it and then you got to send a ticket to Salesforce for them to turn it on for you.
And just like with the fiscal year, once you activate it, you can't unactivate it.
That's correct. Correct. Yep. You have to send a ticket to Salesforce with your org ID. What's an org?
Basically, that's the business instance of the whole.
Ooh, instance is different. What's the instance?
It's the ticket, right? Ticket number when you send a request in.
Well, that's not the ticket number. Okay, so let me get my pen back out here.
Is that like your spot in the multi-tenancy?
That's it. The org ID or the org is your apartment. It's the record ID that points to your apartment in the multi-tenant infrastructure.
And then the instance would be the building.
Yeah, the instance is the entire building. So if this is our multi-tenant infrastructure where there's a bunch of apartments, our apartment in the multi-tenant infrastructure is the org. The instance is the server farm that we're in. So I'm in NA111. You might see, if you're somewhere, if you're in India or something, you may see NA4. So the instance is the data farm that you're in. The org is your particular organization or apartment in the multi-tenant infrastructure. What else did we have on here?
The number of licenses and how many are in use.
Yep, number of licenses down here and how many are in use. I told you some time ago that you definitely want to memorize the names of the standard user licenses. You don't have to know what they do, but know their names so that you can pick 3 out of 5 out of a question. You got Salesforce, you got Salesforce Platform, right? And then all these others. So just make sure that you know which ones are standard user licenses. You can go to help and training and search those. But there is a test question on that. So know the names of the different standard user licenses. What else is on here?
User's license.
Well, that's what we were just talking about, was the user licenses and how many we purchased and how many we have active and how many are being used. What about this one? What does this tell us?
It's the base currency, which in this case, it was the US dollar.
And if you see currency locale, that means that you are in a single currency organization. So if you see currency locale, that indicates that you are a single currency org. If you see default currency, it's a little different. Default currency means that you have activated multiple currencies. This is the little kind of ridiculous stuff that they're going to put on the exam.
Now I'm curious, if you happen to be in London and you were doing this, then the currency locale in this case would be, you know, the euro or the.
Well, in this case, it would still be the dollar because we don't have we have not activated multiple currencies yet. So they're going to have the dollar just like you do.
Okay.
In this particular format here. If I had multiple currencies, I would activate them by checking the box, sending a ticket, getting them activated, and then we would create the euro with a conversion rate associated with it against the dollar. UI features, user interface stuff. Know that UI features are global. Global meaning they're either on or off for everyone. UI settings. Anybody remember where those are located? User interface, user interface. We got a whole bunch of checkboxes here. So these checkboxes are toggling on and off different UI settings that are global for everybody. They're either on or off. I would not go and memorize all of these. That is not a good use of your time. If you want to know what something does, copy it and paste it into help and training and read about it. I'll give you a few that will help you for the exam here. Quick create is a classic function. This used to be in the answer set. What it was a little sidebar in classic that allowed you to quickly create account records. It's very legacy stuff. It also will allow you to create incomplete account records. So if you have required fields set up, do field level security or something, it will not enforce that. So it's a really bad idea to use it. But no show quick create just as a value, because the question will be something along the lines of, which of these are user interface settings? They'll give you 5 choices. You got to choose 3. So no show quick create. Then anything with hover, because if you control F hover, you'll see that there's a number of them. See that? So if you see anything in the answer set that has hover in it, it's an answer. If you want to know what they do, look them up in help and training. I'm just trying to help you pass the exam here. Anything with hover, show quick create, inline editing. Inline editing means that you can edit the record.
Yeah, that's the pencil.
Well, in inline editing, it's actually, yeah, it's the pencil on the record. So I can change a record without hitting the edit action. That's inline editing. It's the pencil on the record that allows you to edit without hitting the edit button. That's inline editing. Enhanced lists, right below it here, is the pencil on list views. Now it's a little different in Lightning than it was in Classic. But in some of the list views, you'll see that you have the ability to inline edit. In this case, it's not letting me, but you'll see a pencil in here. Recently viewed doesn't have it. Maybe all contacts will. Inline editing here. It's disabled in Lightning. Let me go switch to Classic real quick so you can see what that particular UI setting does. It's not active in here either. You'll see a little pencil in the list view, and you can change the record from the list view. Not sure why it's turned off here unless the... There we go. See the pencil here? That's inline editing on list views. Being able to edit from the list view, and then also being able to select multiple. So if I want to select a couple here and change the state for both, I can do that. So quick create, anything with hover, enhanced lists, show quick create. I think that should do you. Printable list views is a checkbox on those UI settings that has a little printer icon available. If you have it selected, I usually turn it off. What do you need to print for? You know, more restrictive. But those are all UI settings. Search settings have to do with search result values. For instance, if I search Burlington, a little wildcard on the end, it's going to return anything in the app sorted by record here. See them? And in this class, we went and we physically removed the account site value from these search results using search layouts in the object manager. For instance, for the account records, if I want to change the search settings, go to the object manager for the object of interest and choose the search layouts. So if I wanted to change what shows up in the global search bar on the account object, as far as return results, that's going to be here under search layouts. This default layout is the layout for the global search bar. So I could go in here and edit this thing and like maybe remove the owner alias just for, or maybe I'll add something. Let's do state. So now if I go back into my app and look, does this sound familiar? You guys remember this? It's been a while. Now in those return results, sometimes it takes a while for things to show up in Lightning. We'll give it a minute. Oh, it's down here. It moved on me. Counts are here now. But those are search settings. What's a list view? Where do I find them?
Close under the object. If you go to the object, account object, and
Well,
I only know in the classic where you find that.
Oh, well, it's always on the tab.
Okay.
So if you go to an accounts tab, for instance, here's your list views. Can I let users create them?
Yes.
Should I?
Probably not a good idea because they're going to have their own versions of what a list view would look like. And then if you're not careful, you're going to have 100 different list views of basically the same thing.
What happens is that Salesforce always likes to say, oh yeah, you can let them create their own list views. It's really cool functionality. What I have found in practice, what ends up happening is everybody starts creating list views and they make them available to everybody. So now I've got a list view on a tab with, it's got like 50 list views that nobody uses because nobody was trained to properly create them. So I don't let my users do it, especially initially. List views are always object specific. We created them by going to the controls here. See, what ends up happening is they do this. All users can see it. So here's my view. Once in the view, I can sort and filter. So I can sort ascending, for instance, on the name field here. As you can see, that's already been done. We can also share them. That's what we just did, essentially. Share them with users as far as access to the list view. And then we can add fields to the list view as needed. Does this all look familiar? We can filter with complex filter logic if necessary. Always object specific. We can't go cross object in list views. They're always on the tab and they're available for every single object. Questions there? Homepage layouts has to do with Salesforce Classic. I'm really shocked that it's even on the study guide anymore. I'll come back to it when we get to dashboarding and app and home pages a little later on. So hold that thought. Used to be you would manipulate the home page in Classic, but I found seldom did people ever use the home page in Classic. However, in Lightning, the home page is key. Here's your home page. You know, ours is set up like this right now. We'll set up one later that's a little bit better for our needs. But it's essentially just the app builder. It's just another record page, but it's called a home page. So it's the exact same thing. There might be a different component or two. Like this performance component is not on record pages. It's only on home pages, but it's the same idea. What's a user?
Basically, each individual person who logs in to the org.
Okay, what do you got to have to log in?
You need a profile. You need access.
How do we connect with Salesforce in the cloud? What do we have to have?
An internet connection.
And
A browser and a computer, and you need a license.
and username and password, right?
Right.
So we need a username and password, internet connection. In order to get the username and password, you already said we need a license, right?
Yes.
Where is all this set up and maintained in Salesforce?
In their server, in the multi-tenancy.
Well, no, I mean, where do we manage users at?
At the profile.
Well, be careful of that word profile. You will hear people call this the user profile, but for your own sanity, don't call it that. Because there's something else called a profile.
Right.
So I call it the user detail record. I mean, you will hear them say both. But this is where we manage it. It's this user detail record here. You'll hear it called the user profile as well. You'll notice it does not say that anywhere on here. You do not see the words user and profile anywhere on this. But you will hear resources, especially the old folks like me that have been around for a while. You'll hear them call it the user profile. You'll notice I don't do it in my classes because profiles are confusing enough. So one of the questions you might see on admin is what are the required fields on a user detail record or a user profile?
They're basically anything that's in red.
Right. So which one's glaringly not red?
Their first name.
Yeah. So do you think they're going to put that in the answer set? So be
No.
aware of that. They're going to put that in the answer set. They're going to say, which of these are required fields on the user record? And first name will be a choice. Be sure you don't select it. It'll be a choose 3 out of 5 situation. So don't get caught by that one. If you get that question, you're going to love me for that. You're like, oh, that's right. Ryan mentioned that.
Why would first name not be required?
I have absolutely no idea. Maybe I couldn't tell you why that would be. I'm sure there's a reason. Maybe some places don't have last names and first names. I don't know. So What else we got? Alias. Well, that's how the back end of Salesforce sees you. So that's like your name in code to the back end of the platform. It's your owner alias. Email and username. What is the difference between an email and a username?
The username, go ahead.
Username is doesn't need to be real, but it has to be in the format of an email.
Yep.
And email is something that needs to be the actual email of a person.
Yeah, I always think like login credentials go to the email in my mind. Login credentials and communication goes to the email address. The username must be in the form of an email, but it also must be what?
Unique.
Unique across the entire ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
So every org, you would have a different username, but they might all feed into your email. I might have 500 orgs that I'm a part of. Each one, I have a different username, but they could all be firing to that email address. Role. What's a license?
That's the level of like the platform, better essentials or.
That's the edition.
Yeah, the edition. That's it. That's what I'm looking for.
Nope, it's not the edition. It's different.
No.
Good guess though. So the license is the seat itself. If you remember on company settings, we had the licenses that we had purchased, available, remaining, etc. So that's the seat. That's the username and password that you need to log into the org. That's the license. The edition is overall how much functionality is available overall for your org. The license is what functionality will the user be able to have at their level. Even though you're an enterprise org, if you got a platform license, you can't do anything with standard applications. And they have different prices. Customer licenses, community licenses, they all have different prices and different functionality available. But a user must have a license. The user also must have a profile, which we'll cover security here shortly, maybe even next class. Note that there are some other ones. Oh, how many roles can a user have?
1.
How many licenses?
1.
How many profiles?
1.
How many permission sets?
Multiple.
Many, right? So here we've got email encoding as a required field, time zone, locale, and language. Note locale again. This is exactly the same as it was in the company settings, only this time it's on the user record.
Mm-hmm.
So you could be in a different locale where things are formatted differently in your part of the world, and the company can have its own. So Salesforce is doing those mental gymnastics for us. Language, and then email approval requests. What happens if I deactivate a user?
All the information remains intact, but it's not deleted at all.
Okay.
But at the same time, that person, in this case, Joe employee, would not have access to that. So if that person, abruptly left the company, for example, then he would not be able to alter anything.
So what happens in the platform when I deactivate?
It also, let's see, it frees up a user license.
That's it. That's what I was looking for. If I deactivate Joe and I go into company settings and I look at company information and we look at the licenses, how many Salesforce licenses do I have? 2. How many have I used? 1. How many is remaining? 1. So then if I go back in and I activate Joe, Now, how many licenses am I using?
You're using 2.
2. Oops. So that's the key understanding. Can I delete users?
You can, but I would strongly recommend not doing that, because you
Well,
always want to have a record of, even if somebody was logged in for, a minute and did one thing, you still want to have record of that.
can I delete users?
Actually, take that back. No, you can't.
You cannot. You can only deactivate them, just for the reason that you said, right? So you just because you left the company doesn't mean I want everything to vanish. Now, I'll give you a one-off situation here you got to be aware of. If you're using the process builder for scheduled actions in the process builder, for instance, if you're sending an email 5 days after the opportunity is created, and then 10 days after that, and then 15 days after that, right? And you've got these scheduled actions lined up in the process builder. If you have like 20,000 of these scheduled interviews, they call it, right? So a record gets created, some criteria are met, and it gets scheduled to fire that action later on, in this case, an email. If you were to deactivate that user, anything that was scheduled for them to fire will then turn off. So be very careful about that. If you have scheduled actions assigned to a process in the process builder, you do not want to deactivate the user. You want to rename that user to someone else. You learn about this one the hard way as well.
What about freezing?
Well, freezing is just going to just lock them out, basically. They're active, but they can't log in.
So in the case of your scheduled action, if, let's say, Joe employee leaves the company abruptly, then somebody else comes in just for first action, you freeze it, so then he can't get in, but currently all the process is still firing under Joe employee's name until that will buy you time, and then you could rename it to someone else.
Well, then the question would arise, well, what if you don't have an extra license?
Then you need to contact Salesforce and get one.
Well, what if you can't afford it?
Then you're in a bind.
Not really. All I did to fix this problem for my client was I just changed the name and email of that user. I left them active, left everything the way it was. I just edited the user detail record, changed the email address to the new user, renamed them, and left it be. That way the next person is now taking over the ship. Once again, this is stuff that you learn the hard way. A lot of these firms I work with do not have the money. I work with small to mid-sized firms, and they just don't have the cash on hand for a bunch of extra licenses. So you got to work around best practices sometimes. But that one I just learned not too long ago, because I deactivated the user, and then all of a sudden all of the automation that was scheduled to go out for all of the folks that person was the owner of ended up not firing, and it broke the whole process. It was a nightmare. But that was the easy fix. We just made that the user remained active, and we just renamed the user, changed the email, and went on with our lives. Freezing, like we said, we're making them not active, but they can't log in. A good use case for this would be if you're doing an update on the weekend. You might freeze all your users while you do the update. Questions there? Security. 2FA. Key points.
Where you would need to coordinate, let's say, your mobile phone, and then you would type in a code to...
Yeah, so here was the key points. Just remember this little drawing. You'll get the answer right here.
One you have and one you need to know.
That's right. So you've got 2FA. You got some two-factor authentication, something you have and something you know. What do you have?
You have a phone and you need to know the code.
They will say device, but in reality, what is it?
It's likely your mobile phone.
Well, it could be, it's not really a device. It's really, do you have the cookie on the browser from logging in before? That's what it's really looking for, is that cookie. What do we know?
The passcode that they send you or user verification.
Username and password, right? What happens if we go put in the username and password and it's incorrect? What's it do? Think about it. If you go to log in and either one is incorrect, what's it do?
It doesn't let you in.
Mm-hmm. It says, try again. What happens if you get it correct?
Then it would generate a code based
Well,
on.
first thing it does is it looks for this cookie. It says, do you have the cookie on the browser from logging in before? So basically, have you verified before is what it's asking. If so, it lets you right in. What happened? And then it also checks what? Other than the cookie, what else does it check? Trusted IP. So if you have a trusted IP and or the cookie on your browser, it lets you in. What if none of those things exist? That's when you get your verification. And it comes in the form of either, and that's the code, the 5-digit code that you get. And that comes in the form of SMS or email, depending. That's everything you need to know about 2FA. What do I get if I own the record?
You get full access.
Which means what?
That you could read it, you could write it, you could edit it, and if you're been given the profile, you could delete it.
We can view, edit, share, transfer, and delete. What are we transferring? What are we transferring?
Access.
Ownership, which means we're transferring what? Full access, right? What if I don't own the record? What do I get?
You'd have to receive permissions.
Well, what do we check first if you don't own the record?
OWD.
OWDs, those are org-wide defaults. What if they're set to private?
No access.
Owner gets,
Full access.
everybody else gets.
No access.
Public read write. Owner gets,
Full access.
everybody else gets.
Read and write.
Can they share?
Nope.
Can they transfer ownership?
Nope.
Can they delete?
Nope.
OWDs are private, all right? What do I check next?
Role hierarchy.
Roles. What's role hierarchy do?
It overrides the OWD.
System of
Roles and subordinates.
Roles and subordinates. What's the highest level of access I can give?
Full.
Full. It's also a template. It can be assigned to a user or a group of users. What's number 3?
Profile.
What's profile do?
Gives permissions.
Permissions for what a user can see and do with records that they have access to. It's also a template. Be assigned to a user or a group of users. If I do hit edit on a user's profile, what can I change? Think about
You
it.
can change the tags, the apps, the objects.
Apps. What's an app?
It's a group of objects.
Group of objects and relationships that meets a business requirement. What's a tab?
Visual representation.
Visual representation of an object. What's default on mean?
Yeah, you see the tab automatically.
On the bar and in the area. What's default off mean?
It's hidden.
Default off means that it's not on the bar, but it is in the area in the app launcher. Tab hidden means hidden, right? What comes after tab settings?
General user and admin.
General user and admin permissions. Those are our system permissions. What are our super user permissions?
View all, modify all.
And what do those give us?
Full access.
Full access. The only way to give access on the permission side. What comes after system permissions? Object settings are our CRED settings. There's also a view all modify all on those. Then what? Desktop, integration, client, session settings, password policies. What if I don't, or what if I don't hit edit? What can I change?
Page layouts.
Page layout,
Field level settings.
field level security, and the big one, record type settings, right? There's also login hours and IP ranges down here. It's number 4. Permission sets are additional functionality above and beyond a user's profile. Where do they get assigned? Where do I assign permission sets? Do I do it on the profile? Think about it. Where do permission sets get assigned? It's on the user, right? You go to the user detail record, permission set assignments related list, and add it. So I think we'll stop right there. We'll pick up here tomorrow or Thursday, and we'll continue. We'll get down to where we're at in the study guide here. We've covered pretty much all of this. You can kind of see by looking. We'll definitely go back over them, and we're going to be moving into this portion of the class next, to the automation stuff. But if you look through the terminology on these two, this should all be ringing bells for you. These keywords here. From now on, as I said, we'll do our automation stuff for sales and service, which is basically both of these. and then we'll move on to data and reporting. So homework will be to catch up with anything you haven't got to yet. If you haven't gotten everything to record page, please do. If you didn't deal with the pass on your assessment and QA, please do that. That's really good quality experience right there in a project level environment. So definitely do that. In the meantime, I'm going to be working to get the recordings back up to speed, but I do have a hard stop here at 4. So with that, I will bid you all adieu. Thank you so much for being with us again today.
Thank you, Ryan.
There.
Ryan, quick question.
Sure.
It's asking for password, the link that you sent.
You probably have to download Dropbox on your end, and then it'll let you open it. So if you haven't got the Dropbox software on your machine, you'll need that. Shouldn't cost you anything. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.